I'm going to give you share screen 1 minute.
I don't need it, actually. I'm not using Masores this time.
Okay, so I just want to, I want to really thank the Rebbetzin because I actually drove for Nazi.
I total pleasure. I total pleasure.
I wanted her so badly because the last shiur she gave was so fantastic. It was like on a different level, and I had to get her back. So I want to thank her so much. Rebbetzin Ivy Kalazan teaches in Masores High School, Rebbetzin Bulka Nee Seminary, ELYON Seminary. She previously was a teacher in Neve and in ELYON Seminary. She currently lives in Brooklyn, Baruch Hashem, with 5 kids. Her passion is teaching Taamei Hamitzvos and passing on kiruv learning material to the frum world. With that, thank you so much. I so appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Naomi, so much for inviting me. I have to warn you, I don't know if this year this is going to be a little bit simpler. It's not with Makoros inside, but I hope it'll still be helpful. Are you able to see me clearly on the screen fully? Great, amazing. It's it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you all on a Sunday morning to learn together. And this week, we are starting the week of Parshas Mishpatim. And Mishpatim literally means laws. And I guess if you would ask what defines Judaism most significantly, you would say the number of laws that we actually have to constantly keep from when we wake up in the morning till we go to bed at night. And you wake up in the morning, can't talk before you say Moda Ani Lefanecha. Can't even talk to anyone in your room next to you. Can't answer the phone till you say Moda Ani. You then can't touch anything until you wash Negelwasser. Then you have brachas to say every time you eat. Then you have davening to do in the morning, and then mincha time, and then for men ma'ariv time. Then you have how to get dressed properly as you're getting dressed in terms of hilchos tznius. Then when you're talking to your friend, your husband, your kids, you have to be careful with exactly what you say because there are all these halachos about speech and what you can and can't talk about. So we have halachos with speech. We have halachos with dress. We have halachos with waking up in the morning. Then you have all the hilchos kashrus of what you eat and how you have to prepare the food. We don't do most of it, but kashering the meat. It's really unending, Baruch Hashem, the number of mishpatim and laws that we have, which kind of brings up the basic question of why do we have so many laws and halachas? And my mother, she should live and be well, has an aide who is not a Jewish woman. She's a Kushite, and she sees how much our lives are encompassed and surrounded by keeping so many laws. And I think she feels a little bit like, wow, I don't think I could do all that. And I have the privilege in high school and in seminary of teaching a course called Taamei Hamitzvos, which goes into not the halachos, but the deeper concepts and meanings behind the mitzvahs that we keep every day. But the opening topic that I always start with them is, why do we even have this whole system called mitzvahs? And why is it so important and so crucial? Because otherwise, mitzvahs at a certain point in a student's life can feel like a pretty heavy burden. Like we have so many things that we have to constantly be aware of and conscious of and controlling of. And the question is, what's it for? So Ramchal Derech Hashem starts with a basic philosophical premise. Is it possible to say that Hashem created the mitzvah system because he needed or wanted people to serve him? Like he wants us to daven because he wants us every day to tell the king, Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanorah. And he wants the kavod that's given to him. And when I teach this in my classroom, we have a whole discussion. The girls will raise their hand and say, Hashem created the world and created Torah and mitzvos, l'chvodo, so that we could give him kavod. But the Ramchal points out very simply, or very obviously, if Hashem, by definition, is perfect, a perfect being has no lacks. He's not missing anything. If he has no lacks, that means he has no needs. And if he has no needs, he didn't need us to daven every day to him. He didn't need me to control my mouth and not talk lashon hara to somebody else, or onas dvarim. And therefore, the Ramchal says, clearly, the mitzvah system cannot be for him. It has to be a system that's developed for us. Because a being who is whole and who is complete and who is perfect is so whole and perfect that he has so much to give forth. I sometimes imagine the difference between a hole. A hole is an empty space, and therefore it constantly needs filling, taking in. I eat breakfast, but then by lunchtime I need to eat lunch because there's an empty hole that needs refilling. I buy clothing, but then the clothing wears down, so I need to buy new clothing because I'm an empty hole that needs refilling. My gas tank in my car, I fill it up, and a week later I'm back at the gas station again. Everything in the physical world needs refilling because it empties out. Hashem is perfect and complete. A perfect and complete being doesn't need refilling or receiving anything. That means he doesn't need kavod, he doesn't need honor, he doesn't need my mitzvahs, of course, on any technical level. But if you think about a pitcher that's like full, and it's so full that it's like overflowing with water. Now, all the water that's overflowing could either just spill onto the floor, or there could be a cup that takes and receives that water. To the pitcher, does it make a difference where the water is going? Not really. The water could go on the floor, the water could go into the cup. But for the cup that can receive that goodness of that water, the benefit of that water, it's to the cup's goodness and advantage to receive it. So Kiviyachol, the Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, Hashem is so overflowing with good, with completion, with perfection, with love, that he is just overflowing with good, and he wanted to create beings who could receive that goodness and that love. So the question is, who in the universe is receiving his goodness? It would seem as if every being, right? Every plant is receiving water and sunlight and photosynthesis, and every animal is getting oxygen and food. And yet, if you ask, why did Hashem create the world? We just said to give goodness. The opening word of the Torah actually, according to Chazal, answers the question. Why did Hashem create the world? We all know the famous Rashi, Bereshis. Bereshis, Bishvil, for Rashis. Who's Rashis? Either Klal Yisrael or the Torah. And there are two different psukim that refer to Rashis as Klal Yisrael or Rashis as the Torah. Which means, if you ask what's the purpose of creation of the world, he wanted Jews to keep Torah and mitzvahs. He wanted me to wash Nagelwasser. He wanted me to say Moda'ani. He wanted me to dress b'tznius or not to do onas dvarim, which goes back to the same question. It can't be for him. The question is then, how does keeping the mitzvah system, if it's supposed to be giving for us, it seems as if the people who are not keeping Torah and mitzvahs have much more comfortable, easy, convenient lives. You go away on vacation for a few days. They can just stop at any restaurant, eat anywhere they want. You don't have to like schlep all your food with you and make sure that you have, kosher things available. Husbands and wives can be with each other anytime they want. There are no harchakos, there's no nida, there's no mikvah. You can talk about whatever you want in any conversation. You don't have all these halachos of shmiras halashon. But we're saying here, Bereshis, Hashem created the world to give. And what's the giving? Giving Jews an opportunity to keep Torah and mitzvahs. So the goal of our class today is to try to understand for ourselves more clearly how then does the mitzvah system benefit us? Meaning, if we're saying that Hashem created the world to give, he's a pitcher that's overflowing with good. And we just said, according to the Chazal, Bereshis means the ultimate goodness he could give was Torah and mitzvahs, Jews keeping Torah. So the question is, how does keeping the mitzvah system benefit us? And to be able to answer that, we need to really understand ourselves better. Because I can't understand how a system is good for me unless I understand how I work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to trace together a little bit of how we work internally, and then we're going to show how the mitzvah system is a system that is built to maximize the human development and the human potential. So let's start by exploring who we are, what we're made out of, and then we'll try to connect it to the mitzvah system. I'm going to give you now a pasuk that describes the creation of Adam Harishon. We all come from him, so whatever ingredients there were in him is what we're made out of. As you look at the pasuk, I'm going to put it up on our board. I'm going to ask you to just try to identify how many different ingredients there were in that first creation of Adam Harishon. Here we go. Vayitzer Hashem Elokim es ha'adam. Hashem formed, shaped Adam, afar min ha'adama, of dust of the earth. Vayipach, and Hashem blew, be'apav, into his nostrils, Nishmat chayim, a living soul. Vayihi ha'adam lenefesh chaya, and man became a living soul. Okay, how many different ingredients? Oh, you can't really have class participation when you have this large. Right, thank you, Sima Geffen. There are two different ingredients in the creation of Adam. Number one, afar min ha'adam, dust of the earth. That is the physical shaping of the body of man. Hashem Kiviyachal took clay, mud, took the mud and shaped it into a human being. At that point, he's not alive yet, because it says, Vayihi ha'adam lenefesh chaya, he only becomes alive after he gets the second ingredient. And the second ingredient is the neshama, the spiritual soul of man. Now, if I would ask you, what is the neshama being made out of? What is the ingredient that's creating that neshama? Well, it says, Vayipach. Hashem blew into his nostrils nishmas chaim. So the second ingredient here is the breath of Hashem, the wind of Hashem that he is blowing in. And the Zohar says, it's almost like if you imagine a glass blower who wants to make a vase. So what does he do? He takes sand, heats it up, and then he blows his breath first in his mouth, then he blows into a straw, then it goes from the straw, it hits the sand expands, and now becomes a vase. Moment by moment that we are alive, we have this nishmas chaim, this breath of Hashem that's blowing kiviyachol from his inside, from his kiviyachol, his throat, into me, which is why to stay alive, I need to constantly be breathing. I need food, but you can go without food for quite even a week or two. I need water, but I can go without water for a few days and survive. I can't go for more than a few minutes without breathing. You know why? Because the nishmas chaim is what Hashem blows into me moment by moment. And if Hashem would not be blowing that breath into me, I would not be alive anymore. Vayihi ha'adam lenefesh chaya, he only becomes a living being after Vayipach, Hashem blows into his nostrils nishmas chayim. By the way, we say this every day in davening. Ata barasa, ata yitzarta, ata nifachta bi. You blew it into me, va'ata mishamera b'kirbi. And you are constantly keeping it in me. How? By the breath that I am breathing moment by moment. That's why the neshama is actually most strongly connected through the breath, through the power of breathing. If you speak a basic Hebrew, the Hebrew word for breath is neshima. Same exact letters, not by accident, as the word neshama. Why? Because the neshama, the soul, comes in through the breath of Hashem that He is breathing into me moment by moment. How do you say smell in Hebrew? Reach, right? How do you say spirituality in Hebrew? Ruchniut. Because the ruchniut part of self, the spiritual me, is being breathed in through the nose, and therefore the sense of smell is the most spiritually connected sense. When Shabbos is over, and I feel like the spirituality and the neshama yesera of Shabbos is leaving, and I want to hold on to that ruchnius and spirituality, I breathe besamim. Why? Because the sense of smell is most internally connected to my spiritual me. My neshama came in through the neshima and the breath of Hashem, and therefore every time that I am breathing, I am connecting back to my own neshama. I always find it interesting to see the overlap between psychology and spirituality. When a person is struggling with anxiety and they want to try to calm themselves down, one of the methods is slow, deep breathing in a focused, mindful way. Because when I'm aware of my breath and I'm connecting to my breath, I'm actually connecting back to my neshama through my neshima. And therefore, like, the breathing part is my most directly connected sense. We know that when people go for therapy, in addition to DBT and CBT, there's aromatherapy. And fragrances and scents often trigger memories back from childhood, back from associative things in a very powerful way, because the neshama and the neshima are so strongly connected. I couldn't help noticing somebody put up on the chat, so another point we were just going to make. In the Chet of Adam Harishon, if you think about the five senses and which ones were part of that Chet, taste, she tasted the fruit. Hearing, she listened to the nachash. Touch, the nachash pushed her against the tree and said, you can, just like you can touch it, you can also eat from it, it's okay. Sight, vatera ha'isha, ki tov ha'etz l'machal, she looked and saw and was tempted by the tree. The only one of the five senses that was not part of that experience or that avera was the sense of smell, because the sense of neshima is most connected to neshama, and therefore that sense really remained the most tahar and the least tainted of all our senses. Okay, so we now know the two parts so far of who we are. I have the physical body made out of dust, and then I have the neshama, the spiritual me, which is a piece of Hashem inside myself. Now, we are the only being in all of the universe who has both sides, right? Every other being, plants, insects, fish, animals, all have bodies and all have physical desires and needs and instincts, but don't have that nishmas chaim that is blown in by Hashem. Now, if I would ask you, do you think that this combination, body and neshama, is like a good shidduch? Meaning, do those two sides of self work well together and have similar interests and similar needs and desires? No way, Michelle. Correct. The two actually have such totally different interests and desires. Like if somebody would have asked me to make a shidduch, I would never put these two together. Why? Let's think about it. Well, what are things that the body needs and derives pleasure from? by the way, this is not only humans. Animals have a body and they need the same thing, right? My body loves sleep. When I wake up in the morning, my body does not say, let's get up and go. It says, let's stay under the covers. Good food. Food is a pleasure altogether, but good food, like depending, there are layers and layers of pleasure on that food. Comfort, ease, relaxation, convenience, massage. A dog or a cat loves being pet. I love getting massaged, right? Now, by the way, none of these are bad needs. None of these are wrong. They're important physical needs that humans and all physical beings in the world need. But if I would ask you, what are non-physical needs that all humans have that are actually spiritually based? Now, I know some of you are probably going to start saying like davening, doing chesed, but I want you to notice who was the first one who was created with a neshama? Adam Harishon, right? Adam was not Jewish. There was no Judaism yet. So I'm asking not for Jewish spiritual needs, but for all human spiritual needs. So from it, I see from it just said love, correct, mazal, connection, relationship, good. That's a similar love and connection. That's one thing. Any other ideas? Love and connection. Security, stability,
Purpose.
safety, purpose. Great. To be seen and listened to. Nice. Knowledge. Good. So the neshama part of self, which all humans have, get pleasure from totally different things. It needs a sense of achievement, like accomplishment in life. A monkey who sits in a tree for 20 years eating bananas, sleeping, mating, will be very satisfied and happy. A human who spends their life eating, drinking, sleeping, but that does not have a sense of achievement, a sense of meaning in life, a sense of truth, a sense of meaningful relationships, will feel a tremendous vacuum and will feel lacking. Because humans have that piece of Hashem in them. Hashem is emes, he is truth. And that's why humans who have that piece of Hashem have a drive to want to be honest and truthful. Hashem is loving, he's giving. Therefore, humans, who have a piece of Hashem, want love and want to give love to each other because we have that spiritual part of self. So what happens here is we have two voices inside ourselves that are constantly broadcasting two varying different needs, very often at the same time, because of this difficult shidduch between body and neshama. So let's just say an animal wakes up in the morning and his body sends him the message, I am hungry. He's a lion, so what does he do? He goes out hunting and he attacks the zebra and he eats him. There's no choice or decision that has to be made because his body is sending him a message and he is a body. So he is reacting based on that body message. A human who's out in the marketplace and doesn't have any money on him, maybe he forgot his money at home, maybe he's broke at the end of the month, and he's walking in the marketplace and it's the morning and he didn't eat yet and he's hungry. His body will send him the message, give me food, just like the lions did. But there will be another message also coming in simultaneously from the neshama that might say, but you have to get that food in an honest way. The body would be happy to just like grab an apple from the apple vendor and just take something to eat because he's hungry. But then there's a conscience, which is coming from that voice of Hashem, who is emes, that says, you want to be an emestic person and you don't want to take something that doesn't belong to you. And then there's the me in between. So there are almost three parts. There's the I, and then there are like the two voices that are coming at me from two different directions, both of which want two different things. My body wants to eat now. My higher side of self wants to be an honest person. The question is, what do I do next? The I then gets to make a choice between body and neshama, or doing something that feeds the body in a neshamadik way. And really, this dilemma or this struggle between body and neshama is really what creates the whole forum for human choice. Because we have both sides of self, and because they want such opposite and different things, we constantly, minute by minute, day by day, Jews or non-Jews, have to make choices as to what takes priority within ourselves. So let's talk about like non-Jewish choices to begin with. Moral dilemmas that humans face between body and neshama. Somebody's filling out their income taxes, and they know that if they don't report all their cash income, they can save another $500 this year on their income taxes. Now, I'm not talking about halacha right now. And I don't know, have to, don't have to, but the decision or the choice between the two. What would my body say? Well, if I can save some money, I can have a nicer car, I can have a nicer house, I can have nicer clothing, all the things that my physical body will enjoy. So like, just don't report it and you'll save some money. And then there may be an inner voice that's coming from that higher neshama part. Hashem is emes, and therefore I want to be an honest person. And then the dilemma becomes, here's little me, and I have two voices coming at me, and the question is, which one am I? So the rule is, every time I make a bechira choice, I kind of strengthen one of those voices inside my psyche. So let's say I decide, you know what, I'm going to report the money, or I'm going to at least ask a shaila. And I ask a shaila, and let's say I do report the money. You know what I just said to myself? I am not just a body. Even though my body would have liked something else, I have a higher me, and that higher me is what I identify with enough to choose to listen to this at that moment. This is what the Pirkei Avos tells us, mitzvah, goreres, mitzvah. I used to think that meant if you do one mitzvah, then like you get another opportunity to do another, which is true. That is true. But it's something deeper psychologically. Every time I choose to listen to my higher voice, I'm strengthening in my identity. I am not just a body, I am a neshama. Then the next time, it's easier for me to make a neshama choice again. So, next choice, again, not Jewish. A guy and a girl are in a relationship, and the guy wants to start getting physical. I have a young lady who's part of my shiurim who is in Columbia University. She battles so hard. Her family became Shomrei Shabbat about 2 to 3 years ago. She battles so hard to like keep tzniut, keep nigia. She said every guy who talks to her in class within a very short amount of time is interested in moving forward on a physical level. Now, if you'd say, what would the body like here? The body would say, well, it's going to feel good and we'll have a fun evening. Why not? Enjoy it. But then there's that inner neshama voice that says, I'm really looking for a relationship. If I'm with this person now and we have no loyalty and we have no commitment and we have no ksuva and no trust, he can be with me tonight, but he could be with somebody else 2 weeks later who he meets at a party. Is that really what I'm looking for? Do I want physical connection or do I want a relationship? So here is this person with two voices inside themselves that both simultaneously would enjoy two different things. The body really would enjoy the night out. The inner voice would really want the relationship. Every time we make a choice, we are kind of identifying with one of those two. And of course, on a Jewish level, on a Torah level, this can be maximized in so many ways, meaning, it just happens so much more frequently. A guy wakes up Shabbos morning, It's 8:15. He knows if he gets out of bed right now, he can make it on time for Birchas HaShachar. Body, let's say like you had a long week. Say you'll go a little later to shul. You'll say it at home, right? Neshama might say, you know what? But my davening is different when I'm there on time and when I'm part of it, Sibur. And so all the struggles very often come down to body and neshama. Now, there's a reason that the body and the neshama have such different interests or poles. We said before that the body is made out of dust of the earth. The neshama is made out of the breath of Hashem. If you think about those two ingredients, these are actually two of the four physical elements that make up everything in the world. What are the four elements again? Fire, water, wind, and earth. We said the body is made out of earth. The neshama is made out of the wind or the breath of Hashem. Why are those two so different from each other in nature? Well, if you think about these four elements and you ask yourself which of them move and which of them stay still. Fire moves. Fire goes from place to place and spreads. Water flows from place to place. Wind moves. Not only does it moves other things. Earth, the globe is constantly turning, but soil itself, unless it has a force that operates on it, gravity, the tide, Earth is just static and stays put. Because the body is made of earth, the natural drive of the body is that it just likes comfort, convenience, ease, staying still, not moving, stability, which is important. The neshama part of self is made out of wind. Wind is an energy or a force that moves. Not only does it move itself, but it moves other things too. So the neshama part of me is the part when I wake up in the morning wants to get up there and say Nishmat Kol Chai. Make sure that I'm part of a shir. Achieve, accomplish. The body part of self is the part that is very comfortable and fine, just staying put and not changing things. Now, because of this debate, every world philosophy has struggled with what do you do with two different parts of self that want two different things? My body is comfortable just staying put. My neshama wants to move and do. What do you do when you have two opposite poles? So there are basically developed three world philosophies over history as to what you do with a tug of war inside yourself. One of the approaches, which I understand logically, is that of Christianity. You don't have to really know Christian theology, but in Christianity, the highest ideal is no physicality whatsoever, if you want to be holy or spiritual. Asceticism. So a person wants to be a nun and be very holy, no getting married, because physical connection between men and women is body, is animal. Your choice is, here's little me with a tug of war inside myself between two sides of self. You have to quiet one side of the tug of war if you want the other side to win. So a priest or a monk in a monastery, dry bread and water, very limited speech, no marriage. Now, I understand the logic. They're saying if you're being pulled in two opposite directions, quiet one to develop the other. There's only one problem with the system. If I'm created with two sides of self and I'm constantly denying one side of self, then there's a part of me that's always feeling unfulfilled or frustrated. And therefore, if you look at the amount of scandals that exist within the church or within Christianity of people who are meaning to be celibate or not having physical connection, it's very hard for it to work when you're denying one side of self. So then you have the other approach, which is that of the Western world that we live in today. They would say, forget about spiritual stuff, just enjoy physicality with no limits necessary whatsoever. be with anyone you want at any time. Married, he's married, she's married, makes no difference. What time of month makes no difference. Eat anything you want, no limits whatsoever. Now, the idea is, again, without any limits, you'll just enjoy all physical pleasures. But because there's one side of self that's still not being addressed and taken care of, if you look at the level of antidepressants that are being used in society today and the level of happiness of people who have made it physically and have won the lottery or become celebrities, you don't find that there is a correlation between just fulfilling all physical needs and reaching the climax of happiness. So it's so subtle. We get these messages all the time in advertising. What they try to really associate in our heads through association is if you just have the right physical things, you will feel spiritually satisfied. They will always try to make a connection between physical experience and what we're really looking for inside. Think about, the billboard I passed for like Coke. I was on the Goethals Bridge. They had big ad for Coca-Cola. They had 3 people in their 20s and teens, all skiing together, big smiles on their faces. They're holding a can of Coke. They're opening it up and it says, "Open Coke, open happiness." Now, what are they trying to associate in my head? What I'm really looking for is relationships. When you look at that ad, you see the teenage boy, the teenage girl, they look so enjoyable and having a great time together. And they're making the association in my head, Coke equals relationship. They always will associate the physical experience with getting spiritual satisfaction through it. You go into an electronics store to buy a toaster oven. Now they want to sell you an additional mechanism that you aren't thinking of buying, a hot air popcorn machine. So as you pass the front door, there's the hot air popcorn machine. And in the front of the machine, you see this big poster with the family. The father, the mother, the younger sister, the older brother, they're all standing around the hot air popcorn machine, and the popcorn is flying out, and you see these like big smiles on everybody's faces. Now, this isn't logical, this is subliminal, but what do I think in my head? Like, my family doesn't look this smiley and happy and achterstick. There's something we're missing. And what they're trying to associate in my head is we're missing hot air popcorn. Like if you just have this hot air popcorn machine, everybody's going to have relationships, right? So, by the way, hot air popcorn can sometimes be a medium to help get there, but that's not the thing that does it. So the world of advertising knows deep down that really what we're all looking for is spiritual meaning or relationship or achievement. When they have Coke with the gold Olympics winner holding it, what are they trying to associate in my head? Achievement equals Coke. And next time I drink Coke, I feel inside somewhere there, I'm being an Olympic winner. I'm getting achievement. It's not logical, it's subliminal. So we live in a world where the Christian world would say, just if you want to be spiritual, forget about physical. The Western world says, if you want to be happy, forget about spiritual and just be physical. Neither one is addressing both sides of self. Judaism is very unique because Judaism says if we're created with 2 sides of self, then we're not meant to be denying either one of the 2, but the art of life is the art of learning how to integrate and join the body and the soul together at once. And that's why we know that, like on our most spiritual, holy day of the week, Shabbos, we're not eating dry bread and water, and we're not putting on our most schlumpy clothing. We make a beautiful seuda with chocolate mousse pie and wear beautiful clothing. But that meal cannot just be about my taste buds and my stomach, because there have to be things going on in that meal that are relationship where, let me go again, where the people at that meal are connecting with each other, parents and children, friends and guests. There has to be meaning in that meal, divrei Torah. There have to be zmiros in that meal that touch my inner side of self. There is benching, there's kiddush, there's purpose and meaning that is happening through the physical experience that I am experiencing. And therefore, way after the physical food is over, the relationships that have been built over that, or the greater awareness of Hashem that I have through the Divrei Torah, lasts with me eternally, way after the food is over. Judaism, as opposed Christianity, does not say no male-female connection. It's animal, it's body. Judaism says, make sure that your relationship is not starting just from physical body attraction. How do you do that? Nigia. Make sure that the physical pull isn't the dominating aspect in this relationship, to make sure that when you're really relating to the other person, they're really relating to who I am inside, to my neshama. So don't let Nagia be part of it. Dress b'tznius when you're going out. Dress beautifully because you want to make sure that the physical can be part of the connection and the relationship, but don't let the physical be so dominant that you don't know which part of me you're interested in and attracted to. If I talk to you and we relate and I value you as a person and you're the kind of person I want to be my husband and the father of my kids, then Judaism does not say no physical. Judaism says have a chuppah, have a ksuva, have kiddushim. In that ksuva, there's going to be a signature on both parts where we're committing to trust, to loyalty, to commitment to relationship. Once that trust and inner commitment is there, then the physical connection between a husband and a wife is considered kodesh kadashim, because it's two humans uniting physically and spiritually together at once. And that's why, let's see that I don't have this poster here. So you'll have to just get this one in your head. That's why what we have is called a mitzvah system. If you say, what is a mitzvah? A mitzvah literally means commandment, siva. But the Aramaic root of the word is a tzavusa. A tzavusa is when you create a combination or a unification of two separate things together at once. If you speak a very good Ivrit and you say, looking just to see if they have, who has it, Baruch Hashem. A mitzvah comes from the shorish the word savta, which is a combination. In modern day Hebrew, a tzevet is a team, a crew. Why? Because it's a bunch of individual people who are combining and joining together to do one task for a mission. The crew on the airplane is called Tzevet Hamatos because it's a group of individuals combining or joining together. You know what a mitzvah is by definition? It's an act where I'm not letting my body stay out of the picture and I'm not letting my neshama stay out of the picture. I'm making sure that both are being satisfied and fulfilled simultaneously as I am doing that act. And therefore, if you say, why did Hashem create a mitzvah system? The mitzvah system is actually the most sophisticated, developed system given to us by the creator of our body and our neshama who made us, who is teaching us the art of how to infuse and inject spiritual meaning into every physical act that I am doing day by day. So when I wake up in the morning and I say Modeh Ani, it's not like Hashem needed it. He was fine before I thanked him. But what it does for me is it helps train me in appreciation and gratitude for my existence and for being alive and for being here. Before I run into all the stresses of my days, the responsibilities of my days, the pressures of my days, first just take those 2 minutes to know and appreciate the goodness of what I have. Appreciation and gratitude is not a physical experience, it's a spiritual experience. Animals don't experience gratitude. So Hashem says, wake up in the morning and say Moda'ani, be gracious for you, voracious for you, because you have the spiritual potential to accomplish what nobody else can do. Wash Nagelwasser. You know why? Because when you're washing Nagelwasser, I'm elevating my hands like a Kohen in the Beis Hamikdash. Before he started his avoda, he would wash his hands. I'm committing myself that my hands today are not just about mixing my food, driving my car. Everything I'm about to do today is part of my Beis Hamikdash, is part of my higher spiritual meaning in what I'm about to do. Before I eat, say a bracha. What I'm doing is I'm making sure that it's not just about my taste buds and my stomach. I'm integrating appreciation and gratitude to Hashem in the way I am eating. Same with kashrus. When I dress, don't just wear clothing that protect the body. Wear clothing that reflect the inner dignity of who I am internally inside. So Kadosh Baruch Hu in Parshas Mishpatim gives us a bunch of different laws. The laws are not there because he needed them, and the laws are not there to limit and restrict our lives. The laws are there to give us the ultimate guidance psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually as to how to be able to create when we have the halachos of nida. Of course, the body would prefer to just not have those restrictions and limitations. But what I'm doing is I'm training myself and my husband to learn how to relate to each other on a non-physical level so that when we're back to the physical connection and relationship, it's a total hashlama and combination of physical and spiritual together and making sure that they're both intact and that they're both there. What we didn't have time for, but I'll just mention very briefly at the end, there are times when the physical and spiritual are not combinable as equals. This is, I guess, an important addendum. It's very nice to say join physical and spiritual, but we just said in the beginning that they have different interests, they have different opposite needs. So Judaism does not say make them equal partners. You can't, because very often they have different opposite needs. So what do? One of them has to be the leader, and the other one has to be the helper. One has to be dominant, the other one has to be the accomplice. Just to make it clear, and this will be our last point for today. Imagine you have a donkey. Now you say, how meaningful is the life of a donkey in the universe? Let's say he lives 10, 15 years. He eats, he drinks, he sleeps, he lies in the grass, he mates, he frolics, he takes a walk, he goes to bed, right? Like he's living physically for 10 years, 15 years, and he dies. So you'd say, how much did he impact the universe? Pretty minimally. But there could be a donkey who has major impact on the universe. If there is a rider who's riding that donkey for a very important mission or purpose. Let's say theoretically, it's not going to happen until Mashiach, but theoretically, somebody comes up with an actual peace treaty that will make peace in the Middle East for the next 100 years. And we need the head of state of Israel, Syria, Egypt, Washington, everybody to sign it. So I take this document, go on a donkey, and ride from Cairo to Damascus to Yerushalayim, all through every country. Everybody signs it. And now, for the next 100 years, there's peace in the Middle East. Ask yourself, how important is the life of this donkey in the universe? Major, because he is being ridden and led and directed for a very important purpose and goal. And if you ask, how important is it to take good care of that donkey physically? Very important. Give him good nutrition, give him good sleep, give him good exercise, because he's going to change the world through what he's doing. We know that the Hebrew word for physicality is chomer, matter, which is the same letters as the word chamor, a donkey. We each have our donkey part of self. Is our donkey bad? No way. It just depends what you're doing with the donkey. is the donkey leading me or am I leading the donkey? Who's in charge? If I'm always responding just to my physical need or desire, because instinctively, then I'm living life just like a donkey, which isn't bad. It just, you eat, you drink, you sleep, you go to work, you make money, you buy food, you eat supper, you watch TV, you go to sleep. That's your life. But if there's a rider, a higher me, who's like leading and directing what I am doing with that donkey, then that chamor, that chomer, has such important meaning. When I am cooking a Shabbos meal, and that Shabbos meal will be used to build mine and my children, my grandchildren, and my self-awareness of connection to Hashem and each other, that chomer is mekudash and is very elevated because there's a writer who's directing it. I remember when I first went horseback riding about 5 years ago in the Poconos, they told me, your donkey, your horse, is going to move through the path, but every once in a while they kind of like to nash, so they may just go off on the side and like go for a patch of grass. If that happens, take your reins, move to the right, he'll go to the right. Move to the left, he'll go to the left. Pull back, he'll stop. And I remember I was on the donkey and we were the horse, and we were like riding through the forest, beautiful, gorgeous sun, loved it. And then all of a sudden, my horse found a patch of grass, and he's like, just totally veering off to the side. And I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I can't control this guy. And then I remembered the reins, and I was like, hold on, just pull to the right, pull to the left, pull back. And it worked. And I remember thinking like, wow, I really can lead this donkey. And it was such a good image for me of like my relationship to my body. I have to take really good care of my body, give it good exercise, give it good sleep, give it good nutrition, as long as I am directing it and it is not directing me. When I go to sleep at night, I can either fall into bed or I can say, I'm going to stop and say Shema properly. I can either put the food right in my mouth or I can stop and say the bracha properly. When I do that, I'm the rider on the donkey. And therefore, the mitzvah system creates the ultimate sabsa and combination of how to ride your donkey, how to lead your chamor and give it infinite, unending meaning for life. Baruch Hashem Elokeinu asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'nasan lanu es toraso. We are just so blessed to have Parshas Mishpatim and all the laws, which are just the ultimate description of how to direct our whole system of self. I'm sorry I went quite over time.
No, amazing. This was so beautiful. Do you have time for a few questions? Can we ask a few questions?
Of course, sure.
This was so gorgeous. I tell you, so beautiful. I think every young Jew needs to hear this. Every young Jewish person, because I don't think they understand what the mitzvahs really are. But I have a few questions and I'm going to open it up to the rest. But I have a few things that I would like you to address. Number one, in the beginning, you said that not only is the decision to choose between one or the other in order to elevate, but it's also because it helps us the next time along to be able to make that spiritual, that higher level choice again. That's number one. Would you say this is one question, would you say that is the reason why secular Jews have difficulty making those decisions, because they're not in the realm of making those decisions, so therefore they're not creating maybe that ease or that ability to see it that way? That's number one. Number two, I wanted to ask you another question, is does the Christian world, do they have the same bechira that we do? Do they have the higher, do they have those three, the soul, the body, and then the two parts of themselves that need to decide between the two, right? And you can question that because, I don't know, like, if you look at what's going on today, right? You question the fact that why is there such a blindness to goodness and so much choice towards evil, right? You're seeing that within society. But then you're seeing a portion of Jews today who are very disconnected, who are actually siding with that side as well, right? So you just wonder what's going on. And the third thing that I want to ask is, you mentioned the donkey, right? So the donkey has this choice. The donkey could either, and you did a parable, you did, you made a correlation between man and the donkey, and the chamor versus the chomer, right?
Mhm.
But also, really, what came to my mind is, why would one donkey have a mission that is greater than another donkey? What would make God choose one? If it was just the donkey, there must be more to it. Why would one donkey have a mission, which is true, right? One donkey will have a mission, because it isn't the whole concept Mashiach is going to come through on a donkey, right? So why would one donkey have this mission versus, and you can ask that in anything. Why would something that is only from Chomer have a mission that seems to be a little bit more profound than another one?
Well,
So
I
those
agree.
are my three questions.
Okay, so let's see if I can remember and answer.
So
The first one, in terms of why secular, is it true that secular people have a harder time, in a certain sense, choosing the soul voice? It really does make sense because
because they're
yes,
not choosing it all the time, as you said. Like, that
right.
makes it easier.
Meaning there are neural pathways on a physical biological level. There are neural pathways that fire certain thinking patterns. And the first time we think a thought, it takes a certain amount of milliseconds to travel through the electrons in my brain. But the second time I'm thinking the same thought, it takes a few milliseconds less. The third time, a few milliseconds less. This is called myelionation. So what happens is my brain gets trained, or it's plasticity,
Neuroplasticity, right?
right? So the more frequently, and that's why it's valuable that we train our children in doing mitzvos even before they understand consciously and spiritually and intellectually the meaning behind them, because you're already creating in them the positive neuroplasticity of being able to choose good on an easier level, and it's less of a battle and a struggle to overcome. So I think that does make sense. The second one was, do Christians and non-Jews also have these three parts? Every person who's created B'Tselem Elokim, which was from Adam Harishon and on, has guf and neshama. And therefore, that plays out in the free choice that every human has. The fact that Christians or non-Jews have Sheva Mitzvos B'nai Noach means that they have 7 areas in which they have to struggle through deciding between soul versus body. Lo tin'af. They do have certain guidelines or directives in terms of who they're allowed to physically be with, and they have to struggle with that. Lo tirtzach. When they're angry, not allowing oneself to go to the point of killing somebody. Aver min hachai. Lo tignov, right? They do have, but it's only in 6 areas. When we accepted Torah, and when anyone who wants to be part of this system is always welcome if they want it, we basically chose to take on additional areas where we will have body and soul choices to make, and therefore we have that many more opportunities and responsibilities to be able to create this tzavsa and this combination within ourselves. And that's really the last pasuk in Mincha L'Shabbos, when we say Hashem chafetz lema'an tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir. Hashem's chafetz, he wanted lema'an tzidko, for us to become higher level righteousness. Yagdil Torah, and because of that, he increased or expanded Torah via Adir and made it more powerful, because his goal was to give us more opportunities of free choice. If being human means the ability to make choices, the more opportunity you have throughout the day to actually have to think, should I say it? Shouldn't I say it? Should I touch him? Should I not touch him? Even when it's my husband, am I going to buy this? Am I not? I'm exercising my humanity each time, and I'm developing myself each time I'm doing that.
So would you say that's why there's such a disparity between the wind and the earth? Is that why, would you say, because Hashem wanted to give us, because it is difficult, right? It is difficult. And would you say that's the reason why there is such a big disparity between the winds and the earth?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the more a person wants to and chooses to connect to their wind, meaning when I do things that give me pleasure on a ruchnius level, it becomes easier to overcome the dust, the earth, the earthiness, because wind has a positive, it blows and it creates an energy that moves things. So when I'm not in the mood or when I feel like it's heavy, like earthy, the more I can like feel the wind in my sails, like that gives me to blow there. Now, in the world around us, as you're saying, like liberal Jews or secular world, if they're not learning that and connecting to any of that spiritual part, then there's no interest or desire to overcome the physical. And therefore, they would say, you can choose and be any gender you want. You can be with any person you want because there's no awareness, almost like there's a lack of self-awareness of who you are and what you could develop.
I also heard like on a deeper level that it's almost like a wall. The more that a person does not do mitzvahs, it's almost like a wall is created that almost that they can't even see. They can't even see through the wall. Because someone once said, like, why can two people sit in the same shiur, right? And one becomes awakened and one just walks out and feels nothing. So I once listened and he said because as we create tuma, we have a lack of righteousness and we're always right, just like when we eat unkosher, our skin becomes like the unkosher animal. That's what I
We
was
become
told.
more calloused, I would say, yeah.
Right, but it's also because Hashem covers up. He almost it's like we're not even given the schus. It's like almost like our free choice is taken away, and we don't even have the ability to see anymore what's right and wrong on some level.
Well,
Right?
yeah, that could be. That really could be. Yes. Also, there are different people who are moved spiritually by different
Things.
modes, meaning there are some people who are more abstract thinkers, and if they hear an amazing concept from a Maharal, that will totally uplift and inspire them and give them energy to want to do. There are other people who are more into like physical experience, and for them, being involved in a Tomchi Shabbos Chesed project will be more touching and more elevating for them. So it's important for a person to like find their mode of spirituality that inspires them and speaks to them.
Well, Rav Kook speaks about that, the original Rav Kook in his Sefer. He talks about there's a reason that everybody's rooted in different things. And he talks about that if a boy's in yeshiva and he's just not connecting to halacha, it's not that he's not supposed to learn halacha, but it means that he's rooted and something else awakens him or really motivates him. He says that is what that's your roots. You're supposed to study everything else, but you're also really supposed to direct yourself to the thing that is really touching your neshama, which is a very unbelievable thing.
I love it.
Right?
Beautiful, 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 beautiful.
Now the donkey.
Your last question about the donkey. So there's a difference between the physical world, which is directed by Hashgacha Klalis, and the human world, or the Jewish human world, more particularly, which is directed by Hashgacha Pratis. In the Hashgacha Klalis, why Hashem chooses a certain donkey animal, like why did this chicken be zocha to be on my Shabbos table as opposed to somebody who was just eating dinner one afternoon? That Hashgacha Klalis doesn't have individualized specific meaning as to why that chicken was zoiche to that, because there's no schus through mitzvahs and averos. But on a human level, we actually define the meaning that all the chomer and the chamorim will have. Meaning, when I choose to use this chicken to be part of my chesed for somebody who just gave birth, or my Shabbos table, through that choice, I am giving more profound meaning to that chamor, that chomer that's there. So really, in a certain sense,
It's your
we
schos.
are, We are ribonim of the olam. Just like Hashem is the ribono shel olam, we are created b'tselem Elokim, meaning we define and decide the purpose and meaning of the world. So when you say, why does one receive more than the other? On a human level, every human has potential for spiritual development or growth, otherwise they wouldn't be here. But Jews who chose to take on Torah chose to take on an expanded capacity neshama, meaning, like, I would say they have like a 6-ounce cup, we have a 613 ounce, they have a 7-ounce cup, we have a 613-ounce cup. So once we chose to do that, we actually are the ones who are giving added meaning to the chamor and to the chomer. And we do that through free choice. And therefore, since we're doing it through free choice, that's what is the greatest nachas ruach to Hashem, because we are becoming exactly what he was hoping we would do with that physical world that we're in.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, I'm just, anybody, sorry I took up so much time. Does anybody else? Vicky, I saw your hand was up. Vicky, you want to ask the question? Vicky?
Yes, I'm so sorry. The one question that I kept resonating in my mind was dealing with the brain, like how the brain correlates with that, in terms of the physicality and the neshama, to be able to understand when is the right time to pause to do the mitzvah in the thinking process. So my question was really related to, how do you make that assertion? Like, how do you get that, like, that mind work in through this whole process that you were explaining regarding, your heart, the human body versus like the mind-body connection. That was really where I was, questioning.
So we really didn't have enough time for the part 2 of this year, where basically we have 3 modes within which we function: thoughts, emotions, and actions. And therefore, Hashem gives us mitzvos in the mitzvah system that help develop us from our mind, through our emotional part of self, through our physical action part of self. So we have mitzvos that are mind mitzvos. Yesterday we heard Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avadim. That means having a total, profound, deep awareness of Hashem being the constant controller over the world and over my life. How do you get that? That can only be worked on through my brain, because it's a mitzvah that's happening in my brain. So when I learn Emunah Sfarim, when I review in my mind things that made me feel hashgacha pratis, I am actually working through my brain on strengthening my higher awareness of truth. But then you move it to the emotions. There are mitzvahs like v'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, ahavas v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, tefillah, which is avodah shabalev. Those are all working on the emotional part of self. And then I have to bring it down into the physical action. I have to, like, make my neighbor lunch if she just had a new baby, or I have to, serve dinner to my family, right? Or give tzedakah. So what happens here is there's a constant savsa, or combination, going on, working from my head down to my emotions and my actions, and there's a trickle-down effect. Meaning the reason my brain is on top, like our brain could have been in our elbow or could have been in my knee. Why did Hashem put my brain up in my head? Because Hashem's goal was that we should work from the mind down to the heart, and then the actions should follow suit.
So just for clarity, just to get clarity on what you just said, it sounds like that each mitzvah is connected to a different part of our being, or a different part of our body, kind of. Like you're saying that we have mind mitzvahs, we have heart mitzvahs, and then we have the physical active mitzvah. So that's the way Hashem developed the mitzvah system, so to speak. Is that how you're explaining that?
Correct. Meaning if mitzvah is a tzavasa, which means a combination, it's really addressing all 3 aspects of the human self and learning how to develop my thinking properly, my emotions properly, and my physical actions properly. And that's why my mind is my moach. My emotions are in my heart, my lev, and my physical actions are controlled by my liver, my blood flow, my energy, right? That's my kaved in Hebrew. When I'm making sure that my mind is leading, then it goes from the moach. Then I decide, what do I want to do with this emotion? Right now, I'm feeling impatient. I'm feeling angry. I have an emotion, but I also have a mind. I can take my mind and decide, like, how do I want to direct this emotion? Am I going to give myself a 10-minute break? Am I going to try to work on Dan Makat's chus? So when my mind is in control, then my moach is leading my lev, and then my physical limbs follow suit. Then, mem lamed chaf, then I'm a melech. I'm in control of myself. I'm the rider of my donkey instead of my impulses leading me. When my body is totally in control, my impulses, I just want to say it because it's in my head. I just want to like do it because it's here right now. Then my kaved is leading my lev and is leading my moach. Then it's kaf lamed mem klum. Then you're nothing. You've lost your humanity and your sense of self. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of training. When I listen to a shiur, I'm training my brain and my neural pathways to think of thoughts in a broader way, to think of reality in a broader way. When I put that into action, then I'm using my body to strengthen that thought, and then it becomes more a part of myself.
Wow, amazing, absolutely amazing.
It really is amazing.
It is, it's
Thank
just
you so much.
amazing. It's so amazing, like it like gives you that aha moment, you know, it really does. It's like, wow, like so genius, the way everything was so perfectly unbelievable.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you,
Thank you,
thank you.
Hashem. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Rebbetzin. You know what? I know that you're busy for the next few months. I know you are. But maybe after the wedding, Mer Hashem, Mazal Tov, maybe you'll come on and just expand, finish this off, maybe and expand, go into the second part, so we can finish digesting and absorbing these ideas that are just so brilliant. And the way you do it, I just want to tell you, the way you bring it down in all your shiurim that we've had, the way that you present it, it's not just logical. It's I'm telling you, it's like this. Wow, it's like it makes you like wow.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. I am so grateful to Hashem to be able to learn Torah together with you and to explore the depth and the beauty that we have. It's really amazing.
It
Thank
really
you.
is amazing. That's what you show. You show the beauty and the depth of
Thank you.
of Hashem and the Jew and everything we have and we're given. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for making
Thank
this
you.
happen. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Sima. Thank you for being on with us.
Okay.